Cosmo, feelings on beef tartare in general.
I like it.
You do. I feel like there's like two ways that beef tartare at home is kind of great. One is like if you're doing a swanky date night at home.
Swanky.
And the other is if you're a protein
Look
whore.
at the legs on this wine bottle.
So of those two, how would you describe yourself? Where do you...
I'm kind of a fiend for protein.
Would it intimidate you to slice and dice a filet mignon?
No.
Anyone can do it.
Ooh, I'm a protein whore. I want this beef.
Today I am going to be making beef tartare with an Herby Tonnato sauce. Before I even cut anything today, I want to say thank you to Jeremy and Tara at Chubo Knives, who sent me this absolutely beautiful knife that is hand forged in Japan. This is the first time I am using it. Chubo was featured in the gift guide this year. They make this really cool mise en place tray that I use all the time. And this knife is super beautiful and I'm super excited to cut with it today. I'm sure it's extremely sharp. What am I gonna cut for beef tartare? The right cut for beef tartare, in my opinion, comes to me from Olivia Block, whose choice for tartare is the filet. Why is filet good? Filet is good for a bunch of different reasons. Number one is that when you buy 8 ounces of filet mignon, you get 8 ounces of beef. There is really no waste. There is no fat to cut away. There is no trimmings. There's no band of connective tissue running through the center that you have to work around. You get exactly out of it what you paid for, which is awesome. The other reason that filet is great for tartare is it's relatively lean. So even though there's some marbling here, when this is sliced, it is very light and very fluffy. It's mild in flavor. It's super tender. So for all of these reasons and more, I am using filet mignon. As usual, the preparation of this recipe is about choices. The choice of the filet mignon I've covered. Next thing up, most recipes are gonna tell you before you try to slice or dice your beef that you should chill it, put it in the freezer for 20 or 25 minutes, which will firm it up and make it easier to cut. Yes and no, because if you take this whole piece and put it in the freezer for 20 or 25 minutes, what actually happens is the outer edge starts to get frozen, right? Because it's the cold side out, and the center stays pretty much the same temperature that it was when you started. So when you start cutting it, it's like very firm on the outside, and then you get to the center and it starts to like go blubbery. What I am gonna recommend from you, and if your filet is tied, a lot of times you can just follow these lines in the string, is to cut it into about 1/2-inch rounds before you pop it into the freezer, which just makes the chilling much more efficient and even from end to end of the slice. So I'm just gonna start, and it doesn't actually really matter at this point if the meat tears a little bit. So that's about a 1/2 inch, and you can use parchment. I'm out of parchment, so I'm just doing a plastic wrap lined rimmed baking sheet. And so I'm gonna get about 3 slices out of this. And the strings actually kind of help to like hold it as you cut, but then you want to take them off after. Looks fine. It's a little thicker on one end, but all good. So now with these in thinner slices, I'm gonna put them in the freezer for about 20 minutes or as long as it takes to make the Tonnato sauce. And then you get that out of the way and you go back to your tartare. See you soon, little beef whores. I sort of lied. I'm gonna make the Tonnato in a second. Before I do that, I want to get my shallot lemon juice macerating. So I wanted both shallot and lemon in the tartare. And so this is just, I don't know, it's a little trick that I also used in my tuna salad recipe where I soak the shallot in the lemon juice for 10, 15 minutes before adding it to the rest of the mixture, and it just makes it more delicious. So I'm gonna finely chop this 1/2 shallot. If you don't have shallot, you can totally use a red onion or a white onion. I think the measured amount, we could look, but it's like 2 or 3 tablespoons that you end up with. So whatever that is in an onion. This is a nice thing to do also if you're making like a vinaigrette and you're gonna use shallot and lemon juice or shallot and vinegar, that you can kind of put those things together at the beginning, throw a little salt on them, and then when it comes time to mix the rest of the vinaigrette, it's just going to be tastier. This knife is a joy. It's just making me realize how dull every other knife on my knife block is. Oh my God, it's a Shallot Confetti extravaganza. It's a beautiful experience. So I'm going for a dice, but there's always going to be, you know, as you get to the end, some irregular pieces. So it's totally fine. Just go back over them. Because the shallot, you do want some texture there. It is partially there for the crunch. It's obviously for the flavor as well. So it's okay if they're not absolutely pinpoint tiny. That was fun. This is my newest pastry scraper to join the family. Got it at a tag sale. I love how petite it is. And if you don't like having a half a shallot around because it'll get wasted, double this. Use half of it in the tartare and then put the rest in the fridge and put it into your next vinaigrette. It's almost like having shallot pickle. So I need lemon for this shallot mixture. I also need lemon in the Tonnato sauce, and it'll be 1 or 2 lemons depending on how big and juicy your guys are. So I'm gonna put the zest of half into the shallots with about 4 tablespoons of juice. The last time I made this, the lemons were absolutely enormous and like made half a cup of juice. It was incredible. Shout out to my neighbor, Florida's own, what was she? She's like Florida's own citrus queen. So 1 lemon gave me almost 4 tablespoons. So you're definitely gonna need 2. So 4 tablespoons going into this mixture, which I'm not salting. I was worried about the amounts of everything going into the tartare are so specific that if I salt this, it could throw off some of the other salty ingredients. Because there's anchovy in this, there's soy sauce, there's koji, there's like a lot of things with salt. All right, so now I need to squeeze the rest of this to get another 2 tablespoons that's going into the Tonnato. Everything in my Tonnato sauce is pretty classic. It's a pretty classic sauce, which is like just a delicious, creamy tuna mayo, essentially, except for this herb. I'm adding about a cup of roughly chopped parsley. I think lots of delicious, wispy, tender herbs would be good in this. Chives, basil, tarragon, chervil. You could do a mix. I think mint is a little too strong. I'm gonna use some of the stem also. And I want about a cup. Why did I add herbs to my Tonnato? The number one reason, honestly, is because the color of Tonnato can just only be described as corpse. It's not a cute color. It's like a upsetting color. So I was looking at it and I was like, it tastes delicious, but it looks upsetting. Adding herbs obviously is gonna turn it green. But I also really love the way that it tastes. It brings like a lot of brightness to these salty flavors, to the creaminess. You've got the rich beef. The beef is pretty heavily seasoned and the parsley was just delicious. So I've got my parsley. The other thing I really encourage and urge and want you to do is to buy your tuna packed in oil.
If you were to buy tuna in water, you'd be pulling away 24 grams of fat out of your dish.
I would also be crying. Tuna packed in water is about as upsetting as the color of Tonnato sauce. It's just not as delicious. It's not as good. And we love fat, okay? So that is gonna go in. Whole jar. Added protein, as if the beef wasn't enough. All right, so I've got my 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, right? 2 tablespoons of white distilled vinegar. You can use another, like a champagne vinegar, sherry vinegar. I just like the white vinegar and I like combining the acidic ingredients. So that's going right in. Tablespoon of mustard, Dijon mustard. And then the last ingredient going in here is 5 anchovy fillets. Again, packed in oil and drained. All I do to drain is just like lift them out. And these are pretty ones that I splurged on because it's swanky date night. These are big boys. I'm gonna do 4. So I'm gonna blend in 2 stages. The only thing I noticed about the sauce when I put everything in at once and then blended was like, it was a little grainy. So we're just gonna give it a head start to help break down the tuna. and then blend it a second time with more of our like oil emulsifying ingredients. And now we're gonna get it super creamy. A lot of times in tartare, it's an egg yolk or several egg yolks, or sometimes it's served and there's another egg yolk on top. But I don't know why I didn't do it. I was just feeling that could be a little freaky. This is a 1/4 cup of mayo. Use whatever mayo you like. A little bit of vegetable oil. I thought about using olive oil, but I wanted the like clean flavor. I wanted the herbs to come through. Let's get that in there. About a tablespoon of capers, and I'm gonna grate in a clove of garlic. And I'm using the same grater that the lemon zest was on. You don't need to wash it. Salt and pepper. Go a little conservative with the salt at first because you've got tuna, you've got anchovies, you already have pre-seasoned mayo in here. Don't want to overdo it. And black pepper. Classically, tonnato sauce would be served. Vitello tonnato is like the classic sauce, so like a boiled veal, thinly sliced, like very ladies who lunch. But it's great for like a dipping sauce for any vegetables, and makes a great steak sauce, I gotta say. Another advantage to doing this ahead is that it will thicken a little bit as it chills. Delish. Zesty, salty, very bright. It's like, I don't want this to sound gross, but it's like a fishy mayo. It's like tuna mayo. It's tuna sauce. It's really good. In the time it took to make the tonnato, my filet has been freezing, and it is now time to dice the beef. Here's the chilled beef. It's not frozen solid, you can tell. It's firm on the edges, it's firm in the center. It's a really good temperature for slicing. And because I already pre-cut, there's actually like less working of the meat that I'm going to have to do. I'm just gonna be honest with you up front. These are not gonna be perfect dice. They're gonna be a little bit more rectangular, but I'm okay with that. And I hope that you will be too. So I'm just gonna start by cutting thinly, crosswise. And like if I really wanted them square, and it is hard as like an O person, you know, to go the long way lengthwise to get it more square. I just don't think it's worth it. I think if you do all that, you're gonna warm the beef up. This beef is warming up. You have warm tartare. It's gonna get all flabby and weird. So we just have to go with like the shape that we're going with. That one's ridiculous, but these are fine. I think these are great. I love these. They're like tiny little beef Tic Tacs. And again, there's no trimming, there's no waste. It's just 100%. Going crosswise or lengthwise, I don't know. What is it? It's a circle basically. And do I want to cut it in half lengthwise? Yeah, I do. I'm gonna control myself. Okay, last little bit in the bowl. And now I'm gonna slice some chives. If you don't wanna buy 2 kinds of herbs, because I've got you using parsley in the tonnato and chive in the tartare, then just use chives. I think using chives in both places is preferable to using parsley in the beef mix, although I'm sure it would be fine. You could also use scallion greens in both, and you wanna thinly slice, but you know, just do your best. It is so hard to find a good chive in the supermarket. I mean, it's one of the most bewitching, bedeviling, frustrating herbs. We need to like develop a new, like a long slot, because the clamshell isn't working. They need to be in like their own tiny little, like poster tube, you know, for art, but it has chives and it's a cylinder because the folding them over is not working. The key thing with tartare, in my opinion, is you don't want to mix after every addition of every ingredient, because that's where things are going to get warmed up. They're going to get a little smushy. Maybe the fat is going to start to soften and like not be the ideal texture. So I'm going to add everything and then gently fold it to work it together. So for this, I don't know. I just went with what I was feeling. And even though the tonnato sauce is kind of more classic and the Mediterranean flavors, like these were the flavors that were talking to me for the tartare. So a little bit more leaning Japanese-inspired flavors, but still a little bit of everything. So it was soy sauce, a little more vegetable oil, I think fat. It's a relatively lean cut of beef, and so having this fat is really important for the texture, but also to help carry the flavors and marry the flavors. And I'm also using koji, which like I did happen to have in the fridge and have been working through this container for a while. But koji is a bacteria, like a healthy bacteria that is used to inoculate rice, and what it produces is at the base of a lot of Japanese sauces, including soy sauce and sake and miso. And these days you can find koji in liquid form. So the one that I saw and bought because I saw it is this creamy one, but it also comes in more of a liquid. It'll just say shio koji on it. And if you can't find either of those, use the same amount of white or yellow miso. It just is adding that like saltiness, the same kind of thing you would expect from miso, like very mouth-filling, savory, a little bit salty, a tiny bit sweet. It just really, even half a teaspoon of this. At the beginning, I had 1 teaspoon in, and then I just wanted like another half teaspoon. And even just that half teaspoon, like completely transformed the flavor. So a little goes a long way. And then a little bit more of the Dijon, which is also in the Tonnato. So then finally, I've got the shallot lemon juice mixture, which is going in as well. 100% of it. So it's like bright, herby, oniony, salty, beefy, a little bit of tang from your mustard. And I'm just gonna fold this all together. You can't let tartare sit once you've dressed it with the acidic ingredients, because right away the meat is starting to oxidize, and so will the herbs. So I think that's another reason why the mixture has to be like very, very tasty, like right out of the gates, because you're going straight into your face with it. So everything is together. I'm gonna give it a taste. Everything is complementing the beef. Everything is elevating the flavor of the beef. It needs a little salt, and it needs a little peps. It's time to plate the tartare, and I am joined once again by my protein fiend, Cosmo.
Hi.
Will you dress the fries?
Yes.
So the fries that we're using today, because I feel like tartare and fries have to go together, are the same ones that we decided were the best in the Fancy Fry episode. They are from Trader Joe's. Cosmo's made the executive decision to add some Aleppo pepper.
I made that decision.
Take it to the plate. Do you know what a ring mold is? Do they do that on the social
If
media?
you like it, then you should have put a ring on it. That's the only ring mold I know.
If you liked it, then you should have put a ring mold on it. So I'm just gonna spoon this onto the plate, kind of compressing it a little bit. This is what I call a tidy beef mountain.
That's what they called me in college.
You haven't gone to college, you crazy.
That's what they called me in high school.
Tidy beef mountain.
I also
good.
haven't been to high school.
Nobody needs to know that. All right, a little bit of flaky salt, perhaps. Wow, those are good.
Yeah.
They do.
You betcha. Trader Joe's. Could you imagine if we got Trader Joe's and TJ Maxx? We'd be like TJ's on TJ's.
TJ squared. DMs are open. Would you like a toast, sir?
Oh my god.
Make sure to get some sauce. Did you try both sauces when you tried it that day?
Nope. Just the green one.
Okay.
But I like the green one.
We've gone with the green one.
I love tartare.
Do you?
Nothing makes me feel more like a man than eating raw meat.
Same. Two great things that are great on their own, but even greater when they come together.
Like
Me and you?
a mother and a son.
Like me and you.
Oh, that's so sweet.
If you want to make tartare and you're not sure whether or not you want to have a kid, you could borrow Cosmo for the low price of, what's your price for a tartare date?
At least $5.
For the love of God, like and subscribe, please, so we can keep making tartare.
I would really like to eat tartare. Again. I'm doing it right now.
Thanks for being here, Cos. Fries, tartare.
Like sandals and socks. If you don't wear socks with your sandals,
What are you doing?
rethink your life, please. I don't put your feet out of my face. I don't want to look at your toes.
All feet? Is that a rule for you with all feet?
Yeah,
You don't want to see the
no,
toe?
I don't discriminate.
Okay. Even like a dainty, elegant, like lady toe? Rather not.
Would you eat peanut butter off of a really cool, pretty dog's tail?
No.
I don't think so.
I'm having a martini.